Armin Hale always thought his life would stay quiet among the machines of Lyuyana Station. He was a systems engineer, the type of person who liked fixing things that others barely noticed. Loose wires, humming panels, tired circuits, all of it made sense to him. People, on the other hand, were harder to fix. That was why he spent more time with cables than conversations. One ordinary morning, while Armin was checking the energy filters on Dock 7, a bright message appeared on the central display. A diplomatic ship had arrived. It was not unusual for traders or explorers to visit, but this was different. The symbol on the screen showed a silver crest shaped like a star flower. Everyone on the station knew what that meant. The Seleth had come. The Seleth were a people wrapped in mystery. Elegant, tall, and graceful, they were known for long traditions and a way of speaking that felt like poetry. Few humans had ever met them face to face. Now their princess was docking at Lyuyana Station. Inside the station hub, officers hurried to arrange a welcome. Armin was not supposed to be involved. He was a simple engineer, not a diplomat. But fate enjoys strange turns. The station director needed someone calm, someone who could meet the Seleth without stiff formality. Armin's name appeared on the list by chance, and before he could object, he was told to prepare himself. When the Seleth ship opened, a soft light poured into the dock. From it stepped Princess Elora. Her movements were slow, almost like dance, and her eyes shimmered with an inner calm. Around her walked attendants in flowing robes. They bowed gently to the human hosts, but Elora looked straight at Armin. For reasons he could not explain, she walked past the others and stood before him. "You are Armin Hale," she said, her voice smooth like water over stone. Armin blinked, unsure how she knew his name. "Yes, that's me. Welcome to Lyuyana Station." She studied him for a long moment, as if she was measuring his soul rather than his words. Then, with a quiet smile, she handed him a ribbon. It was made of soft fabric, glowing faintly with threads of silver. "In my people's way, this is a gift," she said. "It marks respect and possibility." Armin held the ribbon carefully. Respect and possibility, he did not know what that meant. He felt the eyes of the whole station on him. Reporters, guards, even his fellow workers all leaned closer, curious. Elora did not explain further. Instead, she added, "Will you join me tonight for a meal of exchange? I wish to know more about humanity, and I wish humanity to know more about me." Armin nodded slowly, still dazed. "If the station director agrees, I will attend." The princess tilted her head, pleased. "Then it is settled." That evening, whispers spread across Lyuyana Station like sparks in dry grass. The princess of the Seleth had chosen to speak directly with a human engineer. Not a commander, not a scholar, but Armin Hale. People speculated endlessly. Was it chance? Was it strategy? Armin, meanwhile, sat in his quarters staring at the silver ribbon. He could not shake the memory of her eyes, calm and steady, as if she already knew him. What did she mean by respect and possibility? When the time came, he dressed as best as he could in the station's formal uniform. He walked into the grand hall where Elora waited. The hall had been decorated with soft lights and gentle music. The scent of alien flowers filled the air. Elora sat at a long table but rose when Armin entered. "You came," she said simply, and for the first time her smile reached her eyes. They sat together, surrounded by curious attendants. The meal began with human bread and Seleth fruits. Conversation started cautiously, about work, travel, and small customs. But soon it grew deeper. Illyra asked about human laughter, about why humans sometimes act without reason. Armin explained that life is not always planned, and sometimes joy comes from surprise. She listened closely, as if each word was treasure. At the end of the evening, Illyra leaned closer. Her voice was gentle, but her words made Armin's heart stop. "In my world," she said, "when we see a soul that stirs the future, we do not wait. We ask the question that matters." She looked straight into his eyes. "What if I married you, human?" The room fell silent. Armin sat frozen, the ribbon still in his hand. He had come to fix circuits, not to answer the boldest question of his life. The morning after the strange dinner, Armin Hale still could not believe what had happened. He had replayed Princess Illyra's words again and again. "What if I married you, human?" The phrase echoed in his mind like a bell that refused to stop ringing. He tried to convince himself it was a cultural misunderstanding, but the silver ribbon in his hand told him otherwise. Lila, his friend and cultural attaché on the station, noticed his distracted face during breakfast. She placed her tray beside him and gave a knowing smile. "You look like someone who has been handed the universe and told to hold it steady," she teased. Armin sighed. "Lila, the princess gave me this." He laid the silver ribbon carefully on the table. Her eyes widened. She leaned closer, whispering, "Do you know what this means?" "I was hoping you could tell me," he admitted. Lila tapped the ribbon gently, her voice lowering. "Among the Seleth, this is a betrothal token. It does not mean you are married. But it means the idea has been placed in the air. If you accept it in public, people will believe it is real. If you refuse it in public, it is considered an insult. Either way, the entire station will be watching." Armin felt his stomach twist. "So it is not just a gift. It is a test." "Yes," Lila said softly. "And it is also an honor. Seleth nobles do not hand out ribbons lightly. For her to give you one after a single evening is extraordinary. Everyone will want to know why." By noon, everyone did know. News screens across the station displayed grainy images of Illyra passing the ribbon to Armin. Some reporters spoke in excited tones about a new chapter in human-alien relations. Others questioned what hidden meaning lay behind the gesture. Was it politics? Was it romance? Or something even stranger? Armin tried to focus on his engineering duties, but people stopped him in the hallways. Some smiled and congratulated him. Others whispered and stared. A few even asked him directly when the wedding would be. Each time, Armin muttered something about cultural misunderstanding, but no one seemed to believe him. That evening, a message arrived from Princess Illyra herself. It was short and clear. "I request your presence in the ancestral garden tonight. Bring the ribbon. There are matters I wish to explain." Armin showed the message to Lila. She frowned. "The ancestral garden is important in Seleth tradition. If she takes you there with the ribbon, it is not a joke. It is as close as a public declaration." Armin rubbed his temples. "I am an engineer, not a diplomat. I fix broken machines, not interstellar politics." Lila gave him a sympathetic look. "Maybe she sees something in you that the rest of us do not." As the station lights dimmed into evening, Armin walked toward the ancestral garden. The garden was a quiet place built in the heart of Lyuyana Station, filled with plants from dozens of worlds. Paths curved among glowing flowers and soft streams of recycled water. It was a place of reflection, a symbol of peace among species. Illyra waited by a fountain shaped like a spiral star. She wore simple robes instead of royal attire, yet her presence was as commanding as ever. When Armin approached, she smiled. "You came," she said gently. "I had questions," Armin admitted. He held up the ribbon. "This is more than just respect, isn't it?" Illyra nodded. "Yes. On my world, to give a ribbon is to open the door of union. It is not binding. It is an invitation. I wanted to see if you would step through that door." Armin took a deep breath. "But why me? I am not important. I am not a leader, or a scholar, or a warrior. I am only an engineer." Illyra's gaze was steady. "And that is why. Leaders speak with practiced words. Scholars live in theories. Warriors guard their pride. But you, Armin Hale, speak plainly. You do not hide your thoughts. When I look at you, I see a soul unshaped by masks. That is rare. That is what I admire in humans." Her words left him speechless. Around them, the garden seemed to grow quieter, as if listening. Finally, she continued, her voice softer than the water of the fountain. "I do not ask for an answer tonight. But I ask you to keep the ribbon. In time, perhaps you will know if the door should remain open or closed." Armin looked down at the silver fabric in his hand. He felt the weight of it, not in grams, but in meaning. It was a bridge between two lives, two worlds. He nodded slowly. "I will keep it." For the first time since their meeting, Illyra's calm mask shifted into something more personal, a smile touched with relief. As Armin left the garden, whispers of the evening spread quickly across the station. The question now was not what if the princess had offered, but what will Armin Hale do next? The days after the meeting in the ancestral garden were anything but quiet. Everyone on Lyuyana station seemed to know about the ribbon. Wherever Armin Hale went, he felt eyes following him. Some people nodded with curiosity, others whispered behind their hands. A few even looked at him with open admiration, as if he had suddenly become a hero in a story he never asked to join. Armin did his best to ignore the attention. He buried himself in repair work, checking power lines and balancing oxygen flow. Machines did not whisper, and wires did not judge. Yet even here, news screens in the corners showed endless discussions. Talk hosts debated if the princess was serious. Scholars argued about cultural meanings. Traders wondered what such a bond could mean for markets. Every channel spoke his name. He returned to his quarters one evening and found a sealed envelope waiting for him. The seal was delicate and marked with the Seleth crest. Inside was a message written in flowing hand. "Do not fear the noise of others," it read. "Meet me tonight in the quiet chamber. We must speak without audience." Armin sat down heavily on his chair. The princess wanted another private meeting. Part of him wanted to say no, to step away before he was in too deep. But another part of him remembered her calm eyes and honest words. That part pulled him to say yes. The quiet chamber was small, built for meditation and reflection. When Armin arrived, Princess Illyra was already there. She had dismissed her attendants and sat by the window, watching the curve of the planet below. "You came," she said softly, as if she had expected no less. Armin nodded. "I thought it was better to hear from you directly. Everyone else is busy making stories about us." Illyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Stories are easy to create. Truth is harder to hold." He sat across from her. "Then tell me the truth. Why me? Why now?" She was silent for a moment, choosing her words carefully. On my world, duty is heavy. Since birth, I have been told how to walk, how to speak, what path to follow. Everything is chosen, everything is bound by history. Yet I have watched humans, and I have seen something different. You act not only for duty but for choice. You leap where we would hesitate. You laugh where we would plan. I have admired this spirit for many years. Her eyes met his directly. When I first heard you speak in an old broadcast interview about repairing systems after a storm, you said something simple: machines break, but we fix them because we choose to care. That thought stayed with me. You may not be a leader, but you are a voice of choice. That is why I gave you the ribbon. Armin blinked, surprised. You watched a broadcast of me? Yes, she answered. It was not grand, but it was honest. Honesty is rare. Armin leaned back, unsure what to say. He felt both humbled and trapped. Do you understand what this means for me? My family, my people, my life, all of it is tangled now. I did not ask for this. Ilara's voice softened. I know. That is why I said it is only a door. You are free to close it. I will not force you. There was silence between them, broken only by the hum of the station. For the first time, Armin saw not just a princess but a person, someone carrying her own weight of duty and expectation. Finally, Ilara said, still, I must be honest with you. If I step through this door, I will not walk alone. My people will question me. My council will warn me. Yet I believe that sometimes one bold step changes the path of many. Armin studied her face. She looked steady, yet beneath that steadiness was a spark of hope. He realized she was testing not only him but herself. He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. I do not know the right answer. But I do know this: you have made me think about things I never considered before. Maybe that is worth something. Ilara's smile grew warmer. It is worth more than you know. As Armin left the quiet chamber, he found another envelope slipped under the door. This one carried no crest, only simple handwriting. It was from Ilara's grandmother, the elder of her family. The letter was short, written with care. Young human, my granddaughter sees a future in your eyes. Do not fear the weight of such dreams. Imagine the world where her question is answered. Imagine the children of tomorrow who will walk between stars because two souls dared to trust. Then choose what path you must take. Armin stood frozen, the letter trembling in his hand. The princess's bold question had already reached across families, across worlds. And now the choice no longer felt like his alone. Life on Lyuyana station had become a stage. Every corridor, every hall, every dining space seemed filled with curious eyes. Armin Hale could not escape the quiet whispers that followed him. The ribbon rested safely in his locker, yet its presence was like a small sun pulling him into a new orbit. One morning, as Armin was tightening a coolant valve, a messenger from the Selith delegation appeared. The young aide bowed politely and handed him a scroll marked with silver lines. Princess Ilara requests your participation in a series of trust tests, the aide said. They are traditions of our people, designed to measure harmony. Armin unrolled the scroll. The tests were written in careful script: cultural immersion, shared problem solving, symbolic rituals. He read the words twice before speaking. Are these, like trials? He asked. The aide smiled faintly. They are not to punish. They are to show if two paths can truly walk together. That evening, Armin met Ilara in the assembly hall. She explained with calm clarity, if we are to even consider the ribbon's meaning, our people must see we can cooperate. These tests are a way to prove respect, not just feelings. Armin nodded slowly. Then let's begin. The first test was cultural immersion. Armin spent a day living by Seleth customs. He wore robes that flowed like water, learned their slow greeting bows, and ate meals timed to long songs instead of clocks. At first he stumbled. He spilled water on the robes, bowed too quickly, and mistimed the meal chants. Yet Illyra guided him patiently, and by evening he could follow the rhythm without shame. In return, Illyra tried human customs the next day. She dressed in the plain uniform of a station worker, joined Armin in the noisy cafeteria, and laughed awkwardly when she dropped a tray. The humans cheered her effort, and for the first time the princess looked less like a distant star and more like a companion. The second test was shared problem solving. Engineers created a simulation where the station lost half its power. Armin and Illyra had to work as a team to restore balance. Armin rushed to improvise, patching virtual circuits with quick ideas. Illyra, however, thought long and deep, predicting outcomes far ahead. At first they clashed. His fast hands skipped over details, her careful plan slowed the process. But slowly they learned to listen. Armin adjusted his pace, leaving space for Illyra's foresight. Illyra shortened her explanations, letting Armin act swiftly where speed was needed. Together they restored the system in record time. Observers from both sides applauded. The third test was a symbolic ritual in the ancestral garden. Here, the custom was to share a personal memory. It had to be something honest, something that revealed truth. Illyra went first. She spoke of her childhood, walking alone through endless palace corridors, wishing for a friend who would not bow but laugh. Her voice carried sadness but also strength. Then it was Armin's turn. He hesitated, feeling the weight of all eyes. At last he chose to share the story of losing his father when he was young. He spoke of the silence in their small home, of learning to fix broken devices because he could not fix the emptiness. The memory hurt, but he offered it openly. The garden was quiet. Illyra reached out, not touching him, but letting her hand hover near his. "You carry pain," she said gently, "but also light. That is what I see." For Armin, the ritual ended with a strange peace. For the first time, he felt the princess truly understood him. Over the next days, word of their efforts spread beyond the station. Reports flowed to Earth and to the Seleth home world. Some praised the partnership as a hopeful sign. Others mocked it as foolish theater. In the halls of the Seleth Council, older voices warned that such experiments might weaken tradition. Yet younger voices whispered that change was needed. As Armin walked back to his quarters after the final test, he realized something had shifted inside him. He was no longer just a reluctant engineer caught in strange events. He was becoming part of something larger, something that could reshape how two worlds saw each other. Still, doubt remained. Would their growing trust be enough to face the storm of politics waiting beyond the station's walls? After the trust tests, the atmosphere on Lyuyana station grew brighter. Many workers greeted Armin Hale with friendly smiles. Some even patted his shoulder, as if he had become a symbol of pride. Princess Illyra walked through the halls with less formality now, speaking openly to humans and sharing laughter during small gatherings. But beyond the station's walls, ripples were spreading fast. On Earth, news channels showed endless debates. Some leaders praised the partnership as a step toward unity between species. Others called it reckless, saying humans knew too little about the Seleth to tie themselves to them. Families in small towns argued over dinner tables, and schools held discussions where children asked innocent questions about alien marriage. On the Seleth homeworld, the matter was even heavier. The High Council split into two camps. The younger members whispered of new beginnings and new ideas. The elders frowned, warning that traditions could not be rewritten for the sake of curiosity. A message arrived at the station: the council would review the matter formally. Until then, Ilira was warned to act with great care. Armin felt the pressure growing. It was no longer just about him and the princess. Whole worlds were watching. His own family back on Earth sent a long communication. His mother's voice, kind but worried, came through the screen. "Armin, I am proud you are trusted. But do you understand the weight you carry? This is not only about feelings. It will change how people see us for generations. Think carefully, my son." His sister, Liana, joined the call with sharper words. "Do you even know what life would be like? Different food, different laws, different customs. You might not even be considered part of their society. Don't be swept away by a dream you don't understand." Armin listened silently. Their concerns were real, yet his heart felt pulled in two directions. He wanted to protect his family's trust, but he also could not ignore the connection he felt with Ilira. Meanwhile, Ilira faced her own storm. In her private chambers, she read message after message from elders urging her to step back. They spoke of duty, of heritage, of her responsibility to the Seleth line. Some even hinted she might lose her position if she continued. Yet her resolve did not break. One night, she and Armin met in the observation deck, where the stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. She placed her hand near his on the railing and spoke softly. "They do not see what I see," she said. "They see only danger. I see a path to harmony. If I step away now, nothing will change. But if I continue, even if it is difficult, perhaps the door to a new future will remain open." Armin looked at her, seeing the calm fire in her eyes. "Do you ever feel afraid?" "Every day," she admitted. "But courage is not the absence of fear. It is walking forward despite it." Her words struck deep in him. For the first time, he realized she was not only a princess but also a person willing to risk her place for something she believed in. To show their sincerity, Ilira proposed a public act. "Let us hold a festival here on the station," she suggested. "Not about marriage, not about politics. A simple gathering where Seleth and humans share food, art, and stories. Let them see with their own eyes that our worlds can join in joy." Armin agreed. Together, they worked with the station crew to prepare. Humans brought bread, music, and painted murals. The Seleth shared glowing fruits, long songs, and delicate carvings of crystal. When the day came, the hall was filled with light and sound. Children from both species laughed together, elders exchanged stories, and for a few hours, suspicion was replaced by wonder. Many who attended left with softened hearts. For them, the sight of unity was more powerful than any speech. Yet not everyone was convinced. Reports soon arrived from the Seleth Council: the festival was noted, but doubt remained. Finally, an official message was delivered. The council would decide in 90 days whether the union could be recognized. Until then, both Armin and Ilira must continue to show the worth of their bond. When Armin read the message, he felt a heavy silence settle in his chest. 90 days. A countdown had begun. Ilira placed the ribbon gently back in his hands. "Then we will use these days wisely," she said with quiet strength. Armin nodded. He did not know how the story would end, but he knew one thing with certainty: he would not step back now. The message from the Seleth Council weighed heavily on everyone aboard Lyuyana station. 90 days. That was the time given to prove that the bond between Armenhale and Princess Elora was more than a spark of curiosity. It had to show real worth for both worlds. Armen sat in the control hub late one night, staring at the glowing maps of nearby colonies. His mind was restless. He kept hearing the same words again and again: prove the bond. But how could two people prove something so vast? He rubbed his forehead, wishing for clarity. It was Elora who found the answer. She entered the hub quietly, her robes brushing against the floor. "Armen," she said, "we must create more than words or symbols. We must build something that serves others. If people see our union as useful, they will understand." Armen turned to her, curious. "Useful in what way?" She gestured to the maps. "Many colonies struggle with habitat design. Humans create clever solutions, fast and flexible. The Seleth plan for centuries, building long-lasting systems. Alone, each method has limits. But together, perhaps we can make habitats stronger. Let us begin a joint project, something that shows the strength of harmony." Her idea lit a spark in him. "Yes," he said, sitting straighter. "A program that blends both approaches. Quick adaptation with long vision." The very next day, the project began. Engineers from Earth and Seleth architects met around large tables, their discussions filled with sketches, numbers, and new ideas. At first, the groups clashed. Humans wanted to act fast, while the Seleth insisted on long calculations. But with Armen and Elora guiding them, the team slowly learned balance. Armen encouraged speed when energy was fading, Elora reminded them to pause when long-term risks appeared. Weeks passed, and the first test habitat was built on a small moon nearby. It was simple, yet remarkable. Its walls were flexible, bending to sudden storms, but its foundations were deep, ready to last centuries. Visitors from both worlds came to see it, and many nodded in approval. Still, Armen felt pressure in his chest. Every step forward was followed by whispers of doubt. Hardliners on the Seleth Council sent reports questioning if the Union was distracting from real governance. Some human commentators accused Armen of being a puppet, chosen only for show. One evening, disaster struck. A colony on the edge of the sector suffered a power disruption after a solar flare. Their systems failed, and thousands faced cold and darkness. Messages of panic rushed to Lyuyana station. The joint team hurried to respond. Armen scanned the failing systems and remembered designs he had once drafted: backup loops that could redirect power using fewer resources. They were untested, but time was short. "We can try this," he said, showing the design to the team. "It may not be perfect, but it will save them now." Some Seleth engineers hesitated. They preferred to wait for full calculations. But Elora placed her hand on the table and said firmly, "We trust him. Let us act." With her support, the plan was launched. The new loops redirected power within hours. The colony lights returned, warmth filled the homes again, and voices of relief echoed across the channel. When reporters asked who led the effort, Elora stood before them and declared, "This success is thanks to Armenhale. His human creativity saved lives, and our partnership made it possible." Her words spread quickly. For the first time, many skeptics began to see the value of blending human and Seleth ways. As the 90th day drew closer, tension returned. The council sent a formal notice: a final review would be held. The chamber would be filled with elders and leaders, and the future of the Union would be decided. On the morning of the review, Armin stood before the mirror, adjusting his uniform nervously. He whispered to himself, "You fix machines. Now speak for something greater." When he entered the grand hall of the council, rows of Seleth elders watched him with cool eyes. The air was heavy with silence. Elora stood at his side, calm but firm. At last, Armin stepped forward. He did not speak with polished words, only with plain honesty. "I am no leader," he said. "I am an engineer. I fix what is broken. Our worlds are not broken, but they are separate, afraid of each other's ways. If we choose to join, not by force but by trust, we show a path forward. I do not ask you to abandon your traditions. I ask you to see that tradition and choice can walk together." His voice carried through the hall. Some elders frowned, others leaned forward with interest. When he finished, silence lingered. Then the council leader spoke. "We will vote." The chamber lights dimmed as the decision began. The chamber of the Seleth Council was vast and solemn. The tall pillars shone with soft light, and every seat was filled with elders, advisors, and observers. At the center stood Armin Hale and Princess Elora, side by side, waiting for the final decision. The silence felt heavy, as if the air itself held its breath. The leader of the council, Elder Sa'eleth, raised his voice. "We have heard the words of the human. We have seen the efforts made by both sides. Now the council shall decide whether this union holds meaning for the Seleth people." A crystal sphere was brought forward. Each elder placed a hand upon it, sending their choice into its glowing core. One by one, the sphere shifted colors, recording votes. The hall was silent except for the hum of the crystal. Armin's heart pounded. He looked straight ahead, trying not to show his worry. Elora, calm yet firm, gave him a small glance of encouragement. She had told him earlier, "Whatever the decision, we have already shown them something they cannot forget." When the last elder stepped back, the sphere dimmed and then projected a pattern of light across the chamber. A line of symbols appeared in the air, the count of those in favor and those against. The result was close, almost equal. But in the end, the side in favor of allowing the union was larger by only a few votes. A wave of whispers swept through the chamber. Elder Sa'eleth lifted his hand for silence. "The council has spoken. The union between Princess Elora and human Armin Hale shall be recognized. This decision is not made lightly. It is not only a bond between two souls but also a symbol of the bridge we hope to build between our peoples." Relief rushed through Armin like a warm tide. His knees felt weak, but he stood tall. Elora's eyes shone with quiet triumph. She did not smile widely, but her expression carried a depth of gratitude and strength. News of the decision spread across the stars faster than light could travel. On Earth, many celebrated with fireworks and music. In the Seleth homeworld, young voices cheered for change, while elders spoke cautiously of a new path. Not everyone agreed, but most understood that something historic had begun. Days later, a ceremony was held aboard Lyuyana station. It was not filled with grand display but with meaning. Humans and Seleth gathered together, sharing songs and gifts. Armin wore a simple uniform, while Elora wore robes lined with silver threads that reflected the stars. During the ceremony, Elora spoke first. "I do not stand here only as a princess. I stand as one who believes that hearts, though shaped by different worlds, can still find harmony. I chose Armin not because he is human, but because he is true. His courage comes not from titles, but from the strength to do what is right. Then Armin spoke, his words plain and honest. I never imagined I would stand here. I am just a man who fixes broken systems. But perhaps that is what this union is, two worlds fixing what fear once broke between them. I cannot promise perfection. I can only promise that I will walk forward with trust. The hall was quiet for a moment, and then both humans and Seleth applauded together. It was not loud thunder but a steady wave of sound, like a heartbeat shared between two species. After the ceremony, Armin and Elora stood once more on the observation deck where so many of their private talks had taken place. The stars stretched out endlessly before them, calm and bright. Armin looked at her with a gentle smile. Do you think we are ready for what comes next? Elora's gaze remained on the stars. No one is ever fully ready. But readiness is not what matters. What matters is the choice to begin. She turned to him, her voice soft but firm. And I have chosen. For the first time, Armin let out a laugh light, almost disbelieving. Then I choose too. They stood there quietly, hands close, not touching but not apart either. Beyond the glass stretched the future, uncertain, vast, and beautiful. Their story had begun with a question that shocked Armin and echoed across two worlds. What if I married you, human? Now it was no longer a question. It was the beginning of an answer written in the stars.